Resilience is a powerful character for a dad to have. But today, we're going to talk about not only resilience, how good it is, but its sourcing and how it can destroy a man's life and his family. Unbridled, unhealthy resilience kills instead of builds. This is Barry with FatherSeekers, and this is the podcast Teach Me to Father. I'm back with my friend and brother and spiritual influencer in my life, Pastor Kelly Rhodes in Lebanon, Missouri. Thanks for coming back again, Pastor Kelly.
Happy to be here, man.
Yep. And if you have not listened to the two previous podcasts, Kelly has shared his story with us and his rich history of family and fatherhood and ministry. Today, we're going to talk about something that every father has, this spiritual, it's a deficit if it's not used right. It's called resilience. And today, we're going to explore resilience, its pros and its cons, how to use it in a healthy way, and how the majority of fatherless fathers use it in an unhealthy, unfashionable way that could hurt and damage you more and your family. Here's the first one. Radical self-reliance and adaptability. Mm-hmm. So for me, in my mind previously, I was faster, quicker, and better alone. I was the lone wolf. Right. As I've come to understand, there's no such thing as lone wolves in the kingdom and in fatherhood. Talk to us about radical self-reliance and adaptability in the pro and the con format.
One of the things that my mentor, Dwayne Deskin, says all the time is that for every mile of road, there's 2 miles of ditch.
Come on.
You know, the idea that, about self-reliance and adaptability, there's a very healthy aspect of that. You know, we need to have that in many areas of our life. However, there's two ditches there. One is that weakness of I can't do anything on my own. I just don't have the power, and I have the confidence, I have the whatever. And so we're stuck in a place where not only do we have to rely on everybody else, we don't think we can rely on ourselves at all.
Wow.
And that's a dangerous place to be.
Yes.
And that's something that needs to be overcome by a lot of us. In fact, that's a very immature way of seeing yourself because God has given you gifts, tools, and abilities so that you can accomplish the things that He needs you to accomplish on your own. However, the other side of that ditch is that thing that says, I don't need anybody else. And that's true until you do. The reality is that one of us is not better than all of us. And you may be very adept in solving all kinds of problems. You will eventually find a problem that you can't solve. And the reality is that unless you're able to bring in somebody else, make that connection, build that relationship, you're going to be stuck at your limits. And you'll never be able to surpass what you can do on your own. And honestly, your family probably needs you to be able to surpass that. We're created to live in community, which means we're not meant to be by ourselves all the time. And what's more, when you really think about it, particularly if you want to raise kids, you want to raise sons, if you model for them the lone wolf, what's going to happen whenever they grow up? Are they going to be on their own away from you? Are you teaching them how to have disconnection with you by maintaining disconnection from others? And so we have to model that healthy form of self-reliance that has confidence that it can do the things that are necessary, but has humility that says, I can bring others in for my greater good, and not fall on either side of that ditch.
You said a lot there that you said a lot that I'm like I got speech bubbles going off all over my brain. But one of them is, what isn't this the greatest petri dish for pride and arrogance to sneak in, or fear of intimacy and fear of failure? I find myself equally centered between those two extremes.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how to escape that gambit. How do you do it?
Personally, intentionally. The only way that you overcome fear of intimacy is by just, for me, it's stepping through that wall. I can either choose to have a fear of intimacy, or I can try to find my comfort in isolation. And I'm gonna go up against God's creative design by choosing isolation, because we were not meant to be alone. It's one of the first things that God said, right? It's like, man was not meant to be alone. So he creates a spouse for us. You know, we look at it that way, where we don't want to fight our design. And so we need to, kind of break down those walls of fear that keep us from the intimacy that God has created us for. And that's with, our spouses. That's also our relationships with other men, our brothers, our fathers. And if there are other men in our life that we may be biologically connected to, but they can't have that connection that we need, cool. Let's find that connection in the church.
So you've hit on a nerve there. One of the things that I see the biggest mistake with some of the guys that have started on the journey with FatherSeekers, and it is just because we're together doesn't mean we're healthy. Right. So what are the things that we have to do? We've talked about spiritual fathers. We've talked about spiritual mentors. We've talked about spiritual brothers. We've talked about having other men in your life, more than just one or two, maybe a circle of 3 or 4 or 5 guys. Bring different perspective and value to the conversation.
Right.
So how do I define or measure whether or not the people I'm including in my life are healthy or unhealthy? What's the marker for that?
Let's talk about health real quick. Health itself is a moving target.
Hmm.
We're always going to be chasing some level, some measure of health, and the way we achieve it and define it and pursue it is going to change over time. If you think about it, I'm 47. I'm looking at health differently now than at 17 and at 27 and 37. And I'm sure when I'm 57, I'll have a different perspective as well. There's going to be different markers that we look to say this is healthy or this is not. Not everything is as simple as BMI and did you get 8 hours of sleep or drink a gallon of water today. And so we need to think about health being a continuum. Also, in that, when we look at the circle of friends that we have, when we look at what's healthy, I think it's important for us to acknowledge that it's okay for us to have friends who are healthier than we are, because they can help pick us up. But I also think there's an important component for us, and we need to look for people who we can pull up as well. Not everybody that's in our circle should be people who serve us. There need to be people that we are serving as well. But there needs to be a balance so that we can be burned out. We need people who are pouring into us. We need to be pouring into other people. And what that does is it helps us take the focus off ourselves.
So I've heard it said that you need a circle of guys, 4 to 5 guys.
Yeah.
And if you are the smartest guy or the fastest in the circle, you've outgrown that circle. Because you need to be in a healthy situation. You need to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And if you're all at a similar place and moving together, that's one thing. But if you're in a group that there's a hierarchy, unless it's like a spiritual father kind of a thing where he's mentoring 3 or 4 young dads, young sons. It doesn't seem like it would be healthy because then it would turn into a pecking order and experience crowns me king. Is that accurate or not?
I think it can be. I immediately think of the story of Henry Nouwen. I'm familiar with Henry Nouwen, and I certainly don't subscribe to everything he taught or believed, but it's interesting that he was a Catholic priest who was a teacher at Harvard. He's a teacher at Yale. He's doing all these. He's world-renowned speaker, and he's written these books. And do you know what one of the last assignments that they gave him was? He was sent to L'Arche, which is a commune for people who struggle with mental disability. And so here's this vaunted academic, and he's called to spend the rest of his career with people who, have the IQ of a child or severe mental handicap or disability. And from that experience and the humbling that he went through himself to serve that community, I think now I've produced some of his greatest works.
Oh, wow!
And so I think we need to be careful as we craft our circle, for sure. But we also need to say, okay, God, if this is the people that you have me surrounded with, and if this is a purpose that you have called me to pursue, well, how do I need to humble myself to be the man that you've called me to be in this season, in this scenario with these people?
Here's the next one. This is a touchy one because it will. This is one of the ones that I ran across in research that has high triggering power.
Let's go.
Yep. Deep empathy and protective instincts framed with this question: how has your experience of growing up without a father influenced the way you respond to your children's emotional needs or vulnerabilities?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, for me, my grandfather was the guy who was the key influencer in my life for most of my life. And man of character, man of few words, man of quiet action. He reminded me a lot. If I had to movie character him, he would remind me of John Wayne in The Quiet Man.
Okay.
One of my favorite movies in all history of the world. He was one of those guys, but he was a gentleman and a soft guy. But I've heard stories from guys who, and culture teaches us this, even Southern culture, where I'm from, you are, men don't cry, buckle up, hide your emotions, that kind of thing. So with that in mind, not knowing all the places where people listen,
right?
How do we really? We weren't groomed. Becoming a father starts at birth. Like we start out as a son, but we're observing a father.
Right.
If you don't have a father to observe, then you don't know how. You didn't get to be on stage and watch him deal with you so that you know how to deal with yours.
Right.
So how does a guy, deep empathy, protective instincts, and especially helicopter parenting, be a man up, or parentification? Is that I pronounce? Parentification.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on there, but I think one way to really to make it practical is that we need to learn how to respond rather than react.
Respond.
And by response is something that you put a little bit of thought into. Now, you don't always have a week to sit down and figure out what you're going to do in a situation. But to learn how to respond rather than react, a lot of times our reaction is destructive. It's damaging because we haven't put any thought to it at all. That might be, a physical reaction, like a flinch or something like that. But if you think about it, like I have flinched before and hit people and knocked drinks out of their hands and things like that and ruined an outfit or something like that. That's happened to me. I'm sometimes clumsy. A lot of times we react to something without thought, and we will say things, we will do things, we will make decisions that had we chosen to take a little bit more time to give a response, we'd have made a different choice. We would have said different words. We would have had a different tone. And so it's learning how to control ourselves so that we're not driven by an immediate reaction, but to kind of slow down a little bit. Most of our decisions are made in haste. Our pastor around here, Ethan Jones, our worship pastor, is fond of saying haste makes waste. And so whenever we react too quickly without really understanding the problem, therefore not understanding our solution, we'll multiply the mistakes. And so we're crockpots, not microwaves. It's learning how to slow down a little bit and not be in such a rush. There's a lot of problems are caused by not understanding the problem we're trying to resolve.
So impulsive familial leadership is catastrophic.
Absolutely.
/ when it's emotionally driven.
Yeah.
Anger, frustration, inadequacy in parenting. Some of my friends who are in the military or police or former police all have this saying that I've adopted. And I try to, even in conversation, I try to apply the 5-second rule, just to pause 5 seconds. That's a long time in a conversation. Yeah. But their thing is slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yeah.
And there's a repetitiveness with that if we can ingrain that inside our psyche and create I don't know if you like a preemptive entryway to neural pathways, like slow down, like let's pause on this because you're talking to a 3-year-old who spilled the milk and you told them not to 7 times, but they did it anyway.
Right.
It's slow down. Why is it that okay, here's me. So my worst thing with my kids is I parented out of ignorance, lack of knowledge, combined with the most evil of cocktails, fear of the unknown, and fear for them, and fear for failure of self and them. If a guy's in that quandary, how does he break out of that looping effect that it's a closed loop that has no brakes, so there's an exit? How do you break out of that?
Again, it's intentionally. Whenever you finally come to the place where you understand that fear is what's driving you, or if it's ignorance that's what's driving you, you have to confront what you don't know, and you have to confront what that fear is to really understand what it is. I'm afraid I'm going to fail. Well, this isn't news to anybody. You're going to fail, and that if we have to allow failure. I love that you brought up Maxwell earlier in one of the earlier podcasts we did. That failing forward idea. The more we're able to learn from failure, the less failure we're going to deal with. Failure is a wonderful teacher. So don't be afraid of it, but do be willing to admit it. Do be willing to be a great student of it. Do be willing to change and adapt because of what you've learned through your failure.
Steward the lessons of your failure.
Yes, very much so.
I think that as I'm sitting here recalling our previous conversations, there's a lot tied to this shame, fear, rejection, inadequacy, identity, inferiority, insignificance, intimidation. Like this one right here, when we have an unhealthy deep empathy and protective instincts, or we have healthy, or we have a he-man, woman-hater club kind of grow up and be a man, boy, or that kind of thing. Wow. Here's another one. Third element of this whole idea of the resilience, the resilience of fatherless fathers relentless commitment to growth and identity formation.
Oh yeah.
And relentless meaning, if it's relentless, I don't feel like it's healthy. But if you keep using the word intentional. Intentional sounds more healthy to me than relentless. Relentless seems unending and a slave master of demand.
I think that relentless, and the way you're using that word in term here, carries with it a built-in dissatisfaction.
Oh, that's so good.
And we'll just take it back to the garden. Why did God rest? Because he was tired. God's limitless. He can't get tired. He rested because he was satisfied with what he made. We have to come to this place of satisfaction. And what I found, particularly as I think about my identity in Christ and my relationship with God, is that I can find a place of satisfaction that also carries with it the ability to allow God to build hunger within me. And so I am satisfied with who I am in Christ and what God's called me to. But because of my intimacy with him, he builds a hunger inside of me that helps me long for more without feeling inadequate.
So relentlessness, without sounding very Pentecostal and charismatic, which is that's another podcast. Don't text me on this. Just don't. The relentless word's thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't seem, it seems very flesh driven to me. But when you're talking about a hunger for what's good and true and pure, that supersedes the relentless piece. Relentless is something I do. Hunger is something that I like. I have to develop that in me. Oh, okay. Here's another one.
Well, before we go there, what is that command that we're told in Psalm 46? Cease striving and know that I am God.
Ooh.
Be still and know that I am God. It's coming to this place of understanding our identity in him. And once we begin to understand our identity in him and our relationship with him, then he drives us. So delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart.
Good.
He drives us.
That's good.
The things that are good, true, and pure that he has planned for us, he's designed for us.
So now you're talking about fatherhood being fatherhood of God being a healing factor in a fatherless heart.
Absolutely.
And
a forming factor.
A forming. What does that mean?
It's a healing the things that have been hurt, and a forming for the things that he has purposed for.
Okay, so that opens up a deep pool, because formation, some would call it pathway, some would call it orienteering, some would call it how do we get there from here?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the greatest struggle, I think, with fatherless guys. You have a void that is significant and crucial and spectacular, but it is the void that must be recognized and dealt with and filled with the proper, not just information, but experience and the proper interaction with God. Like, there is a father hunger in every man, every woman, that can only be answered by God himself. That's why fathers exist, to point their family, their kids to God.
Yeah.
But you're talking about this other thing of where even fatherless guys could draw near to God and begin this formation piece of healing, like original design, like they're reformatted to original design. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. It's allowing God to come in and be our Father in a way that's so necessary. And if you think about it this way, this might be a little stretch here, so don't text Barry.
Probably not.
But, when you read Wild at Heart by John Eldredge.
Hello.
Great book.
Bingo.
That's a classic. Every guy needs to read that book. He talks about how the fact of the matter is, no matter how good of a father you had, no matter how good of a father you're going to be, there's a wound.
Yeah.
Because we are inadequate in our humanity.
Mm-hmm.
We're inadequate to fulfill the role that only God the Father can fulfill. And so I wonder, Barry, if only those who can acknowledge their need for a father, their fatherlessness, can be formed by the Father.
That's I've never put it. I've not been able to put it in those words, but I think that's why Father Seekers exist, to try to communicate that. And I don't even know that we do a good job at it, but yeah, the McGee calls it, Robert S. McGee calls it father hunger in his book, Father Hunger.
Yeah.
And his book, The Parent Factor.
Yeah. Yeah.
The gospel is really the answer to this fatherlessness thing. It's not just for sin, man.
100%.
It's to restore mankind.
I think we think too narrowly about what sin is. Sometimes we think it's not doing certain things and doing certain things, but it's all the ways in which we fall short.
Missing the mark, harmatia.
Yeah.
Is that it? Okay, here's another one. This might feed into what we're talking about here. The ability to forge and rely on alternative support systems. Here's a question.
Okay.
That I'm asking the fathers that are listening to tune their ears, because you're going to have a good answer on this. Who have we as fatherless fathers turned to for support or guidance as a father? And how have these relationships shaped our parenting journey? Most of us would say stalled out cave, shadow dweller, like I'm near the light but not in the light. I'm listening. How do I do this in a healthy fashion and engage in the parenting journey? How do I do that to forge and rely on healthy alternative support systems?
Well, if you're asking that question, you're already doing one of the most important things, is realize that there's a need. Like I need help. I need to connect with somebody or something that can help me get there. Once you realize there's a need, it's just a matter of taking time to look around and finding that need. And there's a lot of, things out there that can help fill that void if we need that help. I'm going to tell you that one of the greatest places you're going to find it is in the church with other Christian men. And it's going there and having open eyes to see, who of these guys is really doing a good job fathering their children. Who of these guys are men who other men are turning to?
Ooh.
You open your eyes and you look at the fruit. And that everybody else says, as Christians, we're not supposed to judge. Well,
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are,
Yeah.
Particularly in this area. Because when you look and you see where this is being produced somewhere else, then that gives us hopefully the courage and the drive to go up and ask that question. Hey, man, I see the way you're living, see the way you treat your wife, see the way you treat your kids, and I need to learn from you. Would you walk with me through this?
Yeah.
Have that open discussion. And when you're able to have that open discussion, be ready for the no. In fact, if they say no, that's probably a really good person who you picked to talk to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But also hope that they say, let me pray about that. That's another good sign.
That's the indicator.
Yeah.
And I think fatherless guys don't know how to pursue and persist, because we take it as rejection.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so desperate for me to even come to you and ask you. It's taken me 6 months to get the guts up and to humble myself and to be so miserable in my lack of knowledge that I'm almost begging you for help.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, depending on the case, God will make us pursue him through these other avenues.
Absolutely.
On this whole thing of reliance, and that's how we started the untold reliance of fatherless fathers. It surely can be unhealthy. And matter of fact, it drives many guys to do foolishness or to die early.
Oh yeah.
But but it, on the other hand, it's a demand of the kingdom that we rely upon each other.
Yeah.
I love a while ago what you said, that God said in the garden, man's not meant to be alone. He needed a woman. He needed animals, but he also needs other men.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Here's one that I think that gets skewed and messed up, and I feel like we are off. I think this is why some guys push faith out of the picture and just say, yeah, that Bible thing is not for me. Here's the fifth element: persistent optimism and faith in the face of adversity. There is a healthy faith.
Mm-hmm.
And that healthy faith is inclusive of intimate relationship with God and brothers, hopefully spiritual father, or perhaps you've renewed your relationship with your dad. But here's the question. When facing setbacks or doubts as a father, what are the healthy beliefs and practices that I need to pursue to make my family healthy? Because we have multiple opportunities and cases for foolishness to go on in the kingdom.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things you can pursue in this avenue is authenticity.
Come on.
More is caught than taught. And we have, well, I live in the Bible Belt. Everybody's got a church. Everybody's got a preacher. And we have some of the highest rates of spousal abuse in the country. In southern Missouri, we have such a strong drug problem that they call methamphetamine 417. That's our area code in other parts of the country.
That's a story.
And so whenever you look at, all those things, negative things are true, and we have 85 churches in this.
Good Lord.
Just in this county. Whenever I look at the reality of what all of that points to and what that means, is that there's a lot of people who have been talking the faith but not living it out at home. And so we have to be authentic with this. We can't. In fact, I've got a guy that he's not a client of mine. He attends church here occasionally, and the reason why he's so furious and angry with God is because he was raised by someone who said amen, amen, amen on Sunday and then beat him like a dog on Sunday afternoon. And now it doesn't have to be that kind of extreme. It could just be that you are a Sunday Christian and you are a Monday everything else. And your kids and your family sees that disparity and they think, well, what is this?
Pastor, shepherd, counselor, father, spiritual son. What do you say to the guy that's had the horrible religious experience that would deter him from seeking genuine, authentic discipleship and following Christ? What do you say to that guy right now?
The pain you've experienced is not the pain from the Lord.
Come on. Yes.
I'm sorry that you've been hurt in that way, but there's something within you that is calling you to something authentic and real, and you know it because you're asking the question. There's something that God put inside of you that's drawing you to Him. Pascal said there's a God-shaped void in all of us.
Come on, Pascal. I love him.
You can't fill it with money. You can't fill it with relationships. You can't fill it with achievement or accomplishment or anything like that at all. It is only through a powerful, life-changing relationship with God the Father, through the Son, filled with the Holy Spirit, that void gets filled. And when that happens, there's nothing else like it.
I feel like the greatest deception that any man could bear is to believe that his historical religious experience is the highlight or the epitome of what God had to offer him in the future.
Say that again, man. That was good.
That to me, I think the greatest travesty and devastation for a man to experience is for his historical experiential knowledge of past religious experience is all that God has for him for the future.
Yeah.
In fact, I have gone back And I went to one of the greatest schools in the nation for theological training.
Yeah.
But I've gone back and rehearsed and studied again. And we have to investigate and interrogate and hold on to and catch and release. Catch what's good and hold it, and release what's not applicable and doesn't apply because maybe it was for a time or a season, but it's skewed for this day and hour. Not theology, not biblical doctrine, but actual cultural norms, cultural pieces and ideas, and those little colloquialisms that were good for the church in those days, which I think that this fresh new wine that God has for today, and that new wine for us as fatherless fathers, is a personal, quiet experience with Him.
Yeah.
Lived out in private, but experienced publicly with a healthy church and other men.
Absolutely.
Hey, if this has pierced your interest today, reach out to us at FatherSeekers.org. Lots of stuff to grab for just the click and the download. Father Fuel, the podcast, Teach Me to Father. Listen, engage in this. You cannot do it alone. Thank you again, my friend.
One thing I want to say just before we wrap up.
Yep.
The idea that we've experienced everything we've experienced in the past, really regarding our relationship with God, that the epitomes in the past is antithetical to the gospel.
Come on.
Everything we read in the New Testament tells us that the best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come.
And if you want that, FatherSeekers is a great place to start finding it. Find it in your local church. You can find somebody who preaches the gospel and lives it out.
Yes.
Is a Bible guy, Bible church, and dive in. Because God has something more for you than what you've known before.
That's good. That's a great way to leave and to exit this little series here. And if you don't have a place to go, there are places. You will have to search them out. But it is available. This is Barry with FatherSeekers and Pastor Kelly Rhodes with a podcast, Teach Me to Father.